Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Winning Tactics podcast. I am excited because I have Tammy Collins here with me today. We are going to talk about how to take the fear out of your business, not let fear paralyze you today, and how you move forward. So, a little bit about Tammy. Tammy is an entrepreneur. She's been around brand and marketing and social media strategy for a long time. She is an expert in finding those full trial of errors, hurdles, and obstacles, and really just overcoming that. Tammy, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you on. Tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you're doing.
Good morning, Adam. Thanks so much for having me, and congrats on your show. It's an honor to be here. We are living in some interesting times right now. It's been quite challenging for me. I'm already in a online space. I already work from home, so those aspects haven't changed for me. If anything, it's really complemented that because I've been trying to teach my clients to do this for a long time. I believe strongly that we have already moved to a full online digital world. We as humans are just very slow to catch up and adapt. So this is just showing us exactly what has been coming for some time. But for me, the biggest challenge right now is that I have a full house of people. And so I have two younger boys who are young adults now. One is finishing college from home and the other one just graduated in May. And so we have a full house. So as you can imagine the online space. So before we go live on something like this, it's sort of a run around the house and make sure everyone's aware that there will be a live session going on and that they don't just come barreling in with the mom. So, yeah.
Yeah, I do that in my house as well. So I am lucky, to have a dedicated office space. But I do the same thing. I'm like, all right, you can have music on. It just needs to be quiet for the next hour. So
yeah. So. And it's interesting. I think right now we also had to do the whole not everyone can be online at the same time. My one son's girlfriend is also staying with us, and she has a live presentation to do for her class at the same time. So, yeah. So it's fun. It's an interesting set of challenges for sure.
It is, but I think all in all, it's going to be an interesting change as we come out of this. I think we're going to move into a new normal, and work at home is going to be something that is going to be a bigger part of many companies. And so, I'm interested to see how that all plays out, because I really think that, this was the opportunity that kind of forced companies' hands to figure out how this works and see some benefits from it. So, I'd love to hear your thoughts on where you think we'll go with work at home as we come out of this, and what you think the future holds in that space.
I think the work at home aspect is really a blessing in the whole situation. I mean, of course, it's horrible circumstances for that to have come about, but I think that so many businesses and have sort of fought the work at home. And I don't know if it's an old ideology that they have under this assumption that, oh, well, you're working at home, you're not really working. I strongly believe and have always believed that everyone should be able to work as their own internal clock allows them to work. You get much better results, much higher productivity, and being forced to work in a box of 9 to 5 or whatever that looks like really isn't practical at all, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, no, I agree. I find my best work gets done first thing in the morning, and then at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, I'm just this weird, like I could take like a 6-hour siesta in the middle of the day, like mid-afternoon through dinner, and then I'm like good to hop back on and hammer down again. So
well, the other interesting thing I always find is that typically companies want their employees to function like their computers, go all the time. But we are humans and we don't operate that way at all. So if we allow our employees to work what's what works for them, you'll get much better results.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. So let's jump into our topic today. Our topic is really around building, how you build your company, your brand, and shift strategies without letting everything that's going on paralyze you. And
yeah, that's something that I've been talking a lot about lately, because of course my clients are coming to me, in a little bit of a sense of panic. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to post about. I don't know what to talk about. Can I still sell my program? What do I do? And there's this sense of fear and panic. And, I feel as though you can let that fear sort of paralyze you and put you in the corner, or you can choose to manage the challenge and make the appropriate adjustments. I mean, unfortunately, there are much bigger concerns in the world. I mean, it could be worse. I mean, there were just new tornadoes that ripped through Tennessee, and there are people there that lost their house. And so now not only are they dealing with the pandemic, but they're also dealing with no home. And by the way, sorry, there's no shelter because we're social distancing. So that's an even greater challenge, right? So figuring out how you're going to manage your business is also a challenge, but it could be worse, right? So move the fear out of your house and start dealing with the challenges one at a time. Every day we have challenges throughout our life, every day, and everyone has a different level of challenge, but that doesn't mean that challenge isn't paramount to them. Right. So we all have to figure out every day how to deal with our challenges. This just presents a new set of challenges. So that you have to make a choice. Are you going to sit there in the fear and let it paralyze you? Or are you going to say, okay, how do I deal with this and move forward?
Yeah, no, that is wholeheartedly, I think a lot of people like yourself are putting those sentiments out there. I think it's super important for people to realize that piece of it. I just had Sarah Wartland on my podcast. The episode launched yesterday, and she talked about taking a step back and revisiting the why. Right? Why do you do this? Why do you get up in the morning? Why do you do what you do? Right? And reframing it in that perspective. And I thought that was a really interesting approach to how we move forward in this.
Yeah. So for me, of course, being a branding expert, I function in that capacity all the time. So when I work with my clients, we're establishing a solid brand foundation that goes right to the why, and everything you do is built upon that. So my approach is a little bit more organic and unique in that way, but I function in that capacity all the time. If you've built a solid brand foundation, handling a crisis is much easier. Another thing that most businesses completely overlook until we're faced with a situation like this is not having a social media guidelines or manual. I've built those, and they can be as big as 50 pages. And what people don't understand is that if you've predetermined all of these actions ahead of time, you don't act out of fear in the moment. Yep. Right? You've already decided what a crisis is, how you will handle it, what the rollout plan will be, what the action steps will be, what the post will even be, all of that great stuff ahead of time. Because in the moment, there's always a sense of fear and panic. And so it clouds your vision and your decisions. So, of course, going forward, everyone should have that. Most companies don't take the time to do that. There's another huge benefit to having that plan, because the other piece that it does is it capitalizes on your current employees and your staff and your clients. It teaches you how to optimize them as well, because they're your biggest advocates. They are truly your best free marketing. And so they overlook that whole aspect as well. But the social media policies and guidelines manual will help to capitalize on all that.
I think it's interesting. You call out the social media aspect of it, and obviously we're here live on social media, and this has become a big part of my strategy through this as well. But I want to take a step back to talking a little bit about disaster planning as a whole, right? Because I think big companies do this really well because, they have like 10 manuals for everything, right? But small companies small businesses don't necessarily think that far ahead because they live so much in the moment, and I think we all get into that trap. What is your recommendation to businesses from a marketing standpoint? How do you set them up for these disaster points?
Right. So one of the first things that I usually talk about is, first of all, stop your scheduled posts, right? Because most small businesses, they're trying to wear 10 hats all the time, right? Mm-hmm. They're literally doing too many things at the same time. So they schedule posts out. So the first thing you need to do is shut those off, because there's nothing more inappropriate than talking about something completely off topic, so shut that off first. Yep. Reevaluate the posts that you have there and see, are any of them able to still run? That's first and foremost. But second of all is, I always tell my clients, don't panic. Take a minute, take it all in, think about it. It's okay if you don't post today. In fact, I teach most of my clients that you want to post and be meaningful in your posts. So I'd rather see you post 3 times a week than post 7 times a week and have half of it be useless information. So they're already kind of in that mind frame. And you do want to join the conversation. This is the mistake that everyone makes. You join the conversation as it's relevant to your industry and your clients. So in other words, if you are in the fashion industry, totally random pull out, but if you're in the fashion industry, you should not be posting daily updates of how many people have passed or all of those. That's completely irrelevant to your industry. What is relevant to your industry is how people in the fashion industry are making masks. So you see, that's how you join the conversation in a way that's relevant to your industry. You don't just pull anything and everything you can find related to the situation and post that. It shows your fear and your desperation. You're very transparent in the social space. So talk about it, join the conversation very tastefully, and do it as it matters to your industry, right? So if you're a lawyer, right, you post things around the situation related to law. You don't you're not going to post the mask situation. You see how that works? Yeah. And then don't overpost, right? That's another mistake. So everyone, you suddenly go, oh, well, wait a minute, people are home and they're paying attention to social media. Let me post anything and everything I can post about the virus. No. Your clients don't care about that. The best example to me in another way that I love to talk about is, I received an email from every car dealership I ever bought a car from. I mean, seriously, I bought a lot of cars, right? So every doctor's office that I have, every person in my household ever went. I mean, and the interesting thing, in all of the emails that I got, not one email was relevant to me. Not one. It was all about them. There was not one word in there about me. And so that's a huge point that you need to focus on what your client cares about, not what you want to say. It isn't about you. It's about your clients.
Well, the email thing is really funny to me because like my spam folder is like filling up at like 3 times the speed now, because not only now am I getting the spam that, the email promotions that they normally send me, but now I'm getting the special COVID email promotions that they're putting out, as well as now the statement from the CEO about how they're responding to COVID. Yeah. And I'm not looking at any of them because I don't have time for all of that.
But it doesn't matter to you. They're not telling you anything you care about, right? Why aren't they telling you about the good that they're doing? Why don't they step up to the plate and live their true culture and all those fancy promises and community things that they say that they do? Now's the time to really prove that you do it. And so many of them are not doing it and not taking that opportunity at all. And so what's happening is you're losing the trust of your clients. You're losing them. They are seeing through you. It's very interesting. I have a direct connection to a retail space, and let me tell you that those true colors have shown quite well, and it is not pretty. It is not pretty at all.
No, I think retail is an interesting space just in general, with Amazon and online shopping. companies like Zulily, and some of the other companies that are finding ways to provide quality products at discounted prices. It makes retail as an industry as a whole very interesting, and I think we'll see some shifts in it coming out all of this in what these retail companies are doing.
Well, they're cashing in right now, which there's nothing wrong with that. But when you talk about things where they tell their employees they're not allowed to wear masks, and they're sitting at home in their corporate homes and barking out ridiculous orders that show their complete lack of empathy or understanding for their employees who are literally putting their lives at risk every day, it's just unbelievable. I mean, I think a lot of these companies need to be really outed about how they're treating their employees. It's really ridiculous. In New Jersey, I was very happy to see that they just released a law that required, if you were in a public space, that you had to wear a mask. And I was like, thank goodness, because my husband works in the retail space, and he was not allowed, literally told he could not wear a mask at work. And I found this to be really upsetting. I mean, I thought it was ridiculous. It showed me so much about what the company really thinks about their employees. It's really awful.
Yeah, it's challenging, right? I think companies have a lot of challenging decisions to make, and sometimes we don't always make the best decisions in those moments. And this kind of leads me into to our next topic of discussion, which is really about the importance of a brand strategy during a crisis like this. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on developing a brand strategy around challenges in your business.
So a lot of people are very confused about the brand concept in general. You mention the word brand and they sort of go, oh yeah, I have a logo, and I have a website. Well, those are two tiny pieces of brand, right? So when clients work with me, they're getting an entire brand strategy. It's a process that takes about 10 to 12 weeks to complete. It's very involved. It's very personal. We do deep discovery. There's heavy research. There's industry research. There's all of these things that go into it. And what comes out of that is a well-developed brand that includes a brand strategy. I also include a marketing strategy, which touches social media. And it even, in its essence, is a mini business plan, if you will, because I'm showing you, usually in that process, we've uncovered key offerings, right? This is how I'm helping my clients live their passion and put their dreams into action, because they don't understand how to take what they love and turn it into something that's sellable, that's marketable, especially in the digital space. So usually when we go through this brand process, those things surface, they're completely uncovered all on their own. And so I usually include that in their brand strategy, because now they realize, like, oh, well, this is my offer. This is how I put that together. This is what that's going to look like. And so having that brand strategy is really, really important. And so I always like to define what brand strategy is. And really, it's really very simple. Brand strategy is an overarching plan of how you want your brand represented and presented to the public, right? That's really all it is, right? Because it's about communication. So it's basically how you're going to help your clients perceive your business, right? Because they're going to come up with their own opinions of what it is, but you're going to help them by putting it your best foot forward. And have that well-developed brand strategy, when you're faced with challenges, it's much easier. And what most people don't realize is that they've skipped that step and they can't figure out why their marketing never works or why. So it's the foundation to everything.
So when I work with businesses, like one of the first things I always look for or ask about is mission, vision, and values. And again, we get big businesses, they've developed this because they realize how that trickles into culture and brand strategy and everything that they do in their business. But small businesses, they're like, well, I was a roofer for the last 15 years and I just got tired of working for somebody. And so I'm going to start a roofing company.
Right. And that's a really great point, because a lot of people make a distinction that falls under your business strategy, which while technically a business strategy will have those things, but those things are uncovered in a well-developed process to your brand, right? I always like to talk, I'm not telling you what your brand is and you're not telling me. It is revealed, and all of those things are also revealed in my process. And so that's why what I do is so impactful, and why, my clients have such amazing things to say, because it's revealed. We're not dictating. And so, like you just said in that example with the roofer, he doesn't know. He knows he wants to do something else, but he doesn't understand the connection. So his foundation is cracked right out from the beginning, because he doesn't have all the answers, or hasn't taken the time to really understand why he's doing what he does.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it always goes back to the why. It really does always go back to the why. And so I always appreciate that just genuine approach to revisiting the why, even in good times. Like I revisit my why probably on a monthly basis, just because it helps me refocus. What am I doing? What am I trying to accomplish? And it really gives me that clarity in the moment, so that I don't act irrationally.
Yeah. One of the easiest ways to tell that somebody hasn't done good branding work is when they're struggling constantly to figure out, well, I don't know, am I being authentic? I don't know how to be authentic. That's the biggest indicator that they do not have a solid brand. Because if you've done the good branding work, the authenticity question never comes up ever again, ever.
Yeah. So let's talk about authenticity for a minute. I think it's a really good call out. What does authentic look like in our new modern digital landscape in your mind?
Well, first of all, I really don't like the word authentic, because, again, like anything else, it's been overused, it's misunderstood, and really, what it's really saying is, the question really is are you being true to your brand? That's really what authenticity means, right? So when you're not able to maintain that consistency in messaging and voice and tone and imagery and all of those things, you start to look inauthentic. It's really about inconsistency in what you're doing. And so, again, solid branding maintains that authenticity and consistency all the time. So it's never an issue once you have all that. It's only an issue when you haven't done that, and you're questioning yourself, and you don't know your messaging, and you don't know who you're talking to. You then don't know how to talk to them, and that's where all that inconsistency comes through.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think inconsistency is the biggest telltale sign when you don't know which direction you're going, right? You don't have to have you don't have to follow all the roads, on the map, but you need to at least know what direction you're headed, so that you can get there. And so that's what I think is important. I think people miss that step. They look at the map and they go, well, I have to follow, Route 4, for the next 50 miles. Well, no, you don't necessarily have to. You just have to get to the end of Route 4.
Right.
So I think that's an interesting approach to it, is just evaluating where you're going and stepping back and going, okay, now I know where I'm going. How am I going to get there?
Yeah. And if you use an example from earlier, let's take the lawyer. If the lawyer starts posting about fashion masks or whatever in his current strategy, he's being inauthentic, right? It's not true to his brand. That's a classic example.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. So let's flip gears one more time, because I want to talk a little bit about those companies that are sitting in that moment of fear right now, right? Because I think there's a lot of people that are going, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And like for me, my thought in this is double down on marketing, double down on getting myself out there, put myself in front of people, and in a way, continue business as usual, in my approach. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on what do we do if we're sitting in that moment of fear now? How do we get ourselves out of that and lift through and move past it.
So if you're a company and you've kind of you've either done one of two things. You've either jumped on the bandwagon of posting anything and everything you can about the situation, or you've stopped posting altogether. Well, actually, you could have done a third thing. You've stopped posting altogether and you're just sort of frozen, or you just began in the sales mode, right? Because, oh my God, I need sales, right? So stop the, oh my God, I need sales, because that's inauthentic. The consumer can completely see that you're paranoid. You just stop doing that. If you're posting constantly about stuff related to the virus that isn't relevant to your industry, stop doing that as well. And if you're sitting in the corner paralyzed, stop doing that. So what you want to do is acknowledge. The first thing is to acknowledge what you've been doing. If you've been sell, stop it and say, we're sorry, we've been insensitive. We're not thinking about you and your needs. Acknowledge it publicly, right?
Okay.
It's all about know, like, and trust, right? If you're in a full-on sale mode, people are not liking you and you're losing their trust, so you need to go get it back. So I would do that. If you've been sitting paralyzed in the corner, acknowledge that. We're scared too. It's okay to say that as a company. You'll earn your clients' trust by doing that, right? And if you've been posting about the virus, acknowledge that. We're sorry. We're talking too much about this. We need to change the topic. And then the next step is to sit down and literally think about your clients. Put yourselves in their shoes. What do you think they want from you right now? They may not want anything other than for you to be genuine, right? And so go do something proactive that will earn your clients' trust, right? It's all about establishing that loyalty. So maybe in a generic sense, maybe you're a local, let's get real hyper specific. Maybe you're a local business in a small community and you sell building materials. I don't know, random thing. How can you help? Is there something you can do for your community, right in your community, that you can do for them? What is that? Find out. That's what you should be talking about. Figure out what that is that you can step up and now be that small committed business that you said you were, that you pretend to be, right? Go do it now. Now's the time to do that. Don't worry and focus solely on sales. If that's all your focus ever is, then that will show through as well, and you become false. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think a great example of your how do you give back to your community? There's a distillery around the corner from us called Wicked Dolphin Distillery, and they shifted production to making hand sanitizer for healthcare workers.
Excellent. And what do you think is going to happen when this all calms down? Every single person in the community will not forget that they did that.
Exactly. Yeah. I know. I mean, they make delicious rum anyway, but it just reinvigorated my trust for the brand as a whole, in the fact that they're all in on the community. So
yeah, they could also, here's a great idea too. They could also do a commemorative batch and have it called something that relates to, healthcare or those on the front line. I don't know what that term is, but that would be an excellent thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I haven't heard of any other plans that they have going on as of yet, but like I saw that it hit the news. It made a big splash in the community, and people have been talking about it. And so I just thought it was an awesome gesture, and it likens to exactly what you're talking about.
What's the important point there? Who did they put first? They don't care they're not thinking about their profits. They're not thinking they just said, our customers, our clients, our community need our help somehow. How can we, in our way, be relevant and give that? That's tremendous. That's the kind of thing that should be happening.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I want to wrap up. We are right at our 30-minute mark here, but I want to wrap up. So what is your closing thought, your closing piece of advice that everybody should walk away from today?
Well, my closing piece of advice is that we are all in our own jar with our ingredients, right? So we know we have all these amazing ingredients, but we do not know, it's impossible for you to know what that label looks like from the outside. Usually it's almost impossible for you to even know what it is you produce. Do you make chocolate chip cookies? What does this recipe actually make? And so it's really important to get an expert to help you figure that all out. The mistake that most people do is that they skip the steps. So if A through Z is the timeline of getting from starting a business to success, they skip all over in the beginning and get over to like N and start going, why isn't my marketing working? I need help with my marketing. And it's like, well, you need to go back to B because you skipped a bunch of key pieces in that process. So it's really important to get some expert help. Take the time and do that part right. It makes everything else down the line so much easier. You will, taking that little bit of time in the beginning and investing in that piece means you will have better, stronger, solid, and profits much sooner than you would if you skipped all those steps. Because I get a lot of clients who are 2 or 3 years in going, I can't get this to work. Well, I can tell you why.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. That is great advice. Really sound advice. Definitely need to start with the foundations and understand your business and what you're doing and what you're producing. Where can people find you?
Well, they can find me all over the place, but LinkedIn's a great place to see a lot of what I do. And I'm also very active on Facebook. I have a couple communities on there and a membership group and some things of that nature that are very full of lots of great tidbits and free information and things of that nature. And you can just use my name, Tammy L. Collins, and you should be able to find me on either location.
Awesome. And for those of you that are going to watch this after the fact, I will drop all of the links into the show notes as well. Tammy, thank you so much for being on. It was a pleasure to have you on today. I appreciate your time, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you. You were a wonderful host. Thank you, Adam.